All right, all you freedom-loving boys and girls, Mark Centerline Systems here on late in the afternoon. It's 17:30 on the 22nd of January, Sunday. You can already tell I'm a little excited. I'm really stoked about the video we're going to shoot, which is the Everyday Carry Utility Pouch. So, hey, it's Sunday. It's the end of the day. As the new term is, this could be a chat, rant, or ramble. It's going to probably be a little bit of rambling. I've got so much gear laid out in front of me right now. This is going to be kind of a little bit of a loadout video for the utility pouch. We've kind of done a smaller, short version in the past, but this is going to be more comprehensive. So, because it's Sunday, at the end of the day, pour yourself an adult beverage, have a little libation, light a cancer stick, cigar, whatever you do, whatever you do. But go ahead, strap in, because there's no way I'm doing this in under 10 minutes. So this is going to be a lot of examples. I want to just show you how versatile this pouch is and how many different ways you could use it. So go ahead and strap in. Hit pause, whatever you need to do. And here we go. We're going to jump right into it. All right. The Everyday Carry utility pouch, or just the utility pouch. You see the previous videos I've already talked. It's like a larger version of the belt pouch, which used to be called the puck pouch. So we just got finished with some yesterday. These are the ones that are going to go to the photographer. He already has two right now. So a little inside baseball, not that it matters to you, but what I've realized is, small business. I don't have a staff or a dedicated photographer. You've got to work with other companies, other people, and it just is what it is. So I think going forward, whenever we introduce something new, we're just going to make one or two in our standard kind of colorways, which has been a lot of Ranger Green, Coyote Brown. It just photographs really well. It looks good on the website. It looks good in the videos, better than some other colors do. So we're just doing those first, getting one or two photos, because the other photos, and then I've got to give him all these props, and he has to do loadouts and all the little, we call them explosion videos, where it just shows you a whole bunch of gear going inside of the product. But so anyway, trying to get ahead of that by just doing one or two ahead of time. But I want to show you right now just some of the different color schemes that we got going on here. So here's multicam black. I got to kind of do this a little differently. Here, I'll just cover up my face so I can see it. Multicam black, and this is going to have Velcro across the front, and that's multicam black Velcro. And then I did in Ranger Green Cerakoted cap snaps from our friends over at Fog Firearms in Walker, Minnesota. And by the way, I got to give Alex a shout out too. Alex Messenger Photography. That's who I'm getting these guys to. All right, and then we've got Coyote Brown. You see, it works better when you don't see me. Coyote Brown with multicam classic on it. That kind of came out really nice. And then we used Coyote Brown Cerakoted snap caps. So that's Coyote Brown Multicam Classic. Speaking of Multicam Classic, that's the next one. So we got a standard Multicam Classic here, Multicam Classic Velcro, webbing, and then we did Coyote Brown snap caps again. That should show up. Then, hey, look, if you like the solid colors, and I really do, I'm really liking Ranger Green, and we didn't make one for me because we just didn't have time to throw it in, and there was kind of unnecessary, and we're busy trying to make sure we're doing all your guys' stuff too, right? But Ranger Green with the multicam black webbing and Velcro and binding tape, I'm really starting to like that color combo. It looks really cool, but so does just classic Ranger Green, right? And you can see the pictures on the website. It'll be Ranger Green and Coyote Brown, so you'll see that there. Matter of fact, I think we did that in the last video too. But regular Ranger Green, right, with the standard, that's just the way they come, pull it out fasteners, snaps right there. And then we got a Chuck Norris. So we got Chuck Norris, black, red stitching, red logo. We decided not to go with the red webbing. I actually think the red webbing takes away from it. It's a little bit too much. So we just did black webbing, black thread, and then we did black webbing, red thread, and then I did red pull the dots, or the snap caps from our friends over at Fog Firearms. Hey, just a real quick little thing. Why is there Velcro on the front? It's a small little pouch. Well, if you don't need it, you don't need it. You can always ask me not to throw it on there, or let me know, or reach out. We can work something out if you don't want it. But, better to have and not need than need and not have. So just a couple quick little examples. If you were doing like morale patches, you know, that's my old. All right, so that's kind of badass right there. I mean, see, doesn't that look kind of cool? Or, you know, if you want to go into, I suppose it's too late. I already dropped it in the bin. It'll show it here, show up a little better here anyway. So here's a military name tape. Little Spoon. Big Spoon's not here to help me out, so I had to represent for him right there. Right, so little name tape action, you know, or put your little medical patch on there, or if it's your fire starting as I get into the loadouts. You know, there's all those little micro patches for fire, medical, water. You do you, right? All that information's out there. All those opportunities or those products are out there. You do it. Hey, so what I'm going to do here, I think, I'm not joking. There's a lot of gear on the table in front of me. It's a little overwhelming. So what I was thinking of right before I kind of got, as I was getting the props out, I think I'm going to do this. And again, there's a whole bunch of different ways of doing it. You know, like, you know, 10 C's, get back home. You know, me, I just do food, fire, water, shelter, shoot, move, communicate, medicate. So I'm just going to use food, fire, water, shelter, shoot, move, communicate, medicate as the umbrella, just to give you a sense of what this pouch can do, and hopefully it fits in your everyday grind and what you're looking for. I'm still wearing mine. I'm freaking in love with it. I'm actually was making a joke the other day. I might get rid of my puck pouch because that carries my emergency medical stuff on there, and I might just go with, you know, and just wear 2 of these guys, one on each side, because better to have and not need than need and not have. But anyway, so let's just dive right into it. Let's just do food, fire, water, shelter. And this is going to get a little mixed because, as you well know, you should know, some of the items that you have cross over into other categories, right? They're multi-purpose tools or multi-purpose, you know, whatever that functionality of the piece of gear. And I mentioned this before, and I am going to do it. I don't know if I'm going to do it this week. It's going to already be an incredibly busy week, but maybe next weekend or that first week in February, I am going to shoot that video talking about, you know, just some ways to look at how to select gear, you know, so that way you can take some of the emotion out of it. And here, my hat's off to Jason over at Lester River Bushcraft. When he was sitting in and I was teaching this class, and he had a great little point. What it really does is it helps you take the emotion out of it, because like when you're talking about survival and going hiking, camping, fishing, hunting, that is potentially survival. Anytime you walk out, you know, outside of the walls of your own house, Mother Nature, well, even inside of the 4 walls of your house and the roof, Mother Nature, she can slap you across the face pretty damn quickly when you least expect it. So it might be about survival. So when it's about survival, you can't let emotions cloud your judgment, right? Just like we shouldn't on so many other things in the world, let emotions cloud our judgment. See, I'm already rambling. I digress. Let's just jump right into it. So food first. So look, I'm going to show you a bunch of different items, and this is all designed to give you an idea. If I can fit these other items in here, well, of course it's going to fit granola bars or bags of granola or Gorp or, you know, dehydrated this or whatever. So you've got to help me, you know, help me help you. I'm giving you some examples, but if you call me up and say, well, Mark, does it fit a granola bar? I'm like, I just showed you a hip flask and it fits a hip flask, so why wouldn't it fit a granola bar? You know what I'm saying, right? So there, just diving into it. Food. So there's all kinds of different bars, lickies and chewies that'll fit in here. That should be obvious, right? But the other part of food, you know, kind of water as well. But like, you know, here, you know, this is just a little Stanley flask. Orange Shepherd turned me onto these little things. These guys are kind of cool. Matter of fact, I'm going to probably fill mine up with some type of rum. I don't know what yet, but it's still wintertime here. And there's some rums that are just nice and sip. I'm not really a big hard liquor drinker. I've tried, but I've just never been good at it. But some rums you can actually just take a little sip of. So that's, I don't know why I'm sharing that with you, but that's what I'm going to probably put in here. But so again, thinking food. And I'm not saying you should be drinking alcohol during cold weather environments. I mean, again, know your own physical limitations, know the environment, how alcohol can, you know, come into play, because it actually can make things dangerous. But a little flask, right? Why not? Just a little flask. That would fit in there. You know, I've already did in the last video these food tubes, right? So this kind of is the other little joke. Maybe this is the picnic pouch, but I can get a flask and one food tube in there. So, you know, so imagine this flask. Well, here, actually, let me give you another example. But I can do it with this flask. But I could get this flask in here, and I could get like a couple like things of beef jerky or sausage sticks, you know, or some cheese in there. And if you didn't have a large flask, you know, you could get some of that stuff in the food tubes that I've shown in the past. But if not, So I apologize to this company. I bought a couple of these a few years ago. I've only used them a handful of times. They're pretty convenient, actually, though, when you don't want to pack in glass and trash out in the woods with you. These little small liquid containers by this company called Vapor or Vapure. I'm not really 100% sure how to say it, so I apologize to them. But I own a couple of them. I've got some larger ones, and these are some smaller ones. So there's no measurement on the outside of this, or I'm not seeing it. So I just filled this up with water prior to the video. This was a little over 6, not quite 8 ounces of liquid in here. So again, imagine if you're just out there fly fishing or out just on a hike with your date, like, 8 ounces, right? That's 2 glasses of wine. Fill it full of wine, and then you would still have tons of room in there for some cheese, crackers, sausage, whatever the case is. And now this becomes, it really does. It could become like your little picnic pouch. And I just put this guy in here. It's not filled, but it would still give me tons of room in there for all kinds of food. So I could just, even if I was doing something really small, short in duration, I could still take gear with me, items with me that would make it pleasurable, comfortable, impressive, depending on who he's with. Like, oh, where did you just pull that out of? Oh, my utility pouch that's on my belt, or whatever the case is. Boom. And now there's snacks, on the side of the trail, or overlooking the falls, the waterfalls, or by the campsite, whatever you're doing. So food, there's just, it almost goes without saying, there's just tons of food that can get in there. Water, same thing. If you can do that Stanley flask, you can put a hip flask in here, but this isn't necessarily designed for that. Either get one of our, Ma Deuces, or, put a canteen in a sock, but this isn't a canteen carrier for obvious reasons, but you can definitely get water in here if you really needed to. That Stanley flask could be full of water. That could just be my no shit on my belt. I always have this much water in case that is what happens. But food, fire, I'll get to fire in a second. I'm kind of coming to that one last because that's going to transition into communication as well. But shelter. So, I hadn't even thought about this until just before I did this video. So when it comes to fire, again, I know a lot of the little folding stoves are big for people depending on where you live in the world, if you've got burn bans, but just kind of showing that off. You can see it's not even taking up any room. It's not even fun. But you could turn this into your little stove kit for all I know, depending on what type of stove you have. But then on the other side of that, shelter. And not 100% sure where I got this. I've got a lot of different shelters, but this guy right here is either I think this is a 5x7 or a 3x5. It's a pretty good robust for one person, or for 2 people if you're going to make a sunshade out of it or a windscreen. This is still a pretty robust shelter. And let me just put it on the ground here. There you go. I still have room inside there. I could put tent stakes in there. I could put cordage in there. I could put the little stove guy in there. I mean, so this pocket is as large, if not larger, than the main pocket on the Ma Deuce, right? So, because you can fit, this is what I carry inside of my Ma Deuce. Just like this. This is up in my front pocket just so I have it in case I ever needed it. All right, so food, fire, water, shelter, shoot, move, communicate. So, I kind of skipped fire because I wanted to tie that in because that's kind of communication. So let's kind of just do that right there. We'll leave the shoot, move, and communicate. We'll just kind of do communicate and fire at the same time. So obviously this is going to fit an Altoids tin, right? If it fits all those other things, it fits an Altoids tin. Now, I guess on a quick little side note, so in the last maybe 3 months of December, I had a couple communications with a few different customers. And so this is a little insert that can fit inside Altoids tins. And I have to do better this time around and give CountyComm and put the link in the video. So Mark, remembering to yourself, put CountyComm link in the video. So they sell these little internal sleeves. And some customers have shown me that there's a whole bunch of companies doing this. I really didn't know that. There's some companies that are making sleeves for your Altoids tin or your Altoids size tins where you can put 22 rounds in, right? So there's a lot of utility out of an Altoids tin, right? And then these guys, I'll put this link in here because as we're going forward, so even though I'm talking about this in the sense of fire, this is like a little fire kit I have, you can put these dividers in there and now it could be part of your shoot. And by shoot, I don't just necessarily mean like, self-defense. Shoot is also any form of food procurement. It could be fishing, like just it's a way of saying either defending yourself or procuring food. Well, there's a bunch of these little dividers that make you, a little bit better organized, and then, being a little bit better organized is always a good thing, right? So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there, and I was reminding myself to give CountyCom a shout out. But then kind of going back into the fire/communications, because fire is a form of communication. By the way, a little plug. Spoon and I did that video, 2 years ago? Almost 3 years ago? Okay, it was a while ago. 2 winters ago. That's before I threw up my back. And we did a 3-part video on emergency signal. So go check out those videos. I mean, they're long and they might be boring. I get it, but we're actually demonstrating how good some of this stuff works. At distances. We had Droney up and we were, doing all this stuff. I thought they were good videos, but maybe no one else did. But fire, right? So an Altoids tin. So of course you need fire starting capabilities, which is also potentially signal capabilities. And so if you notice on some of the gear that I've shown in the past, or that maybe in this video, you'll see rubber bands around stuff. Rubber bands, yeah, bad rubber bands will deteriorate quickly and they'll break and they'll just start falling apart. Good rubber bands or inner tube is a great inner tube, whatever, I don't know what it is. It's a different type of plastic. It lasts a lot longer. You can get them in different sizes. A good hardware store will actually have inner tube or stuff that you can buy. But these are great fire starting devices as well, right? They really burn for a long time. Once you get them going, you can do a lot with a piece of rubber band or an inner tube. So if you've noticed on either some of the gear I have or my fire starting kits, you'll either see a rubber band or a piece of inner tube because the inner tube just lasts a lot longer. And like I said, you can start fire with it. So fire, right there. So obviously this guy's gonna, not only is this guy gonna fit in here, let's combine a little bit of fire and communicate at the same time, because I almost feel like that's necessary. So if I put my Altoids tin in here, and you pick and choose, you can either go on the horizontal, if you want to call that the horizontal plane, that the vertical plane, and then pick and choose what other piece of gear. So this is just a little thing I have in one of my pieces of kit. It's a little saw and it's some fat rope stick. So and then again, there's that rubber band on it. But I could use the saw for firewood, production, making shelter. And then I've got some fat rope stick in here. So that combined with all the fire starting stuff in here, that's pretty robust. And then, some of that same thing means maintaining your tools. So maintaining your tools, whether they're your knife, your camp axe, your saw, whatever it is. So having a good sharpener, here's another version of a sharpener. And then here's a sharpening puck. So when I start going down this road, it's really up to you, because you can pick and choose, and like I can easily get that in here. By that I mean the Altoids tin. And I didn't really plan this, so I'm just going to kind of lay some things in there and see how I like it. Well, right there. So I've got my Altoids tin, my saw, and my fat rope stick, and I still have that much, from here down, that much of space inside of the tin. I can get a sharpening puck in there. I can get this sharpening tool in there. I could get both of those in there. Hell, and then I could even get a thing of matches in there. So you see what I'm getting at. If you wanted to turn this into your fire starting kit or your emergency signals kit, and fire is a part of that, you have a ton of space. You're going to find some pretty creative ways, I know you guys are, to what you're going to put inside of that. Just some other things when it comes to the fire and signal. So, obviously little flashlights like this, but, just another little kind of thing you could do. I'll show you what I'm just doing here. I would still dummy cord it. Yeah, I just took a really thin light and I just ran it through the back molly, right? So, and I would still dummy cord it, but that's just a good little stand-up light. Here, does that show up if I do it like that a little better? Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, there's all kinds of different versions of these out there. You do what you want to do. Signal, going back to other signal, VS17 panel, right? So take a big chunk if you have a VS17 panel or a colored marker. Some of these are really thin and very like sil nylon and very lightweight. Others are the more traditional. This is a chunk off of an old military VS17 signal panel. But cut a chunk off, fold that in here, you know, take your matches, you know, run that in here. You know, you might put a Gerber tool or a small knife in there because you're going to need that for getting your, you know, wood production going. Signal, you know, signal tape. I mean, you see where I'm going. Like, obviously, if a puck is going to fit, you know, and that's a full brand new roll of signal tape right there. So if a sharpening puck fits in there, that's going to fit in there. It just would be a matter of how you want to, like, stack it, store it. You know, I probably would do that a little differently, and then I'd probably put some fat rope in a different type of baggie off to the side. Probably have my matches in this type of orientation, you know, across the top. That's what I would, and I would still have tons of room in there. I could easily get the VS17 panel in there and a flashlight and probably some batteries. All right, so moving on here. And then I guess, you know, kind of on that, no, I'm going to save those other ones for last because that is a little bit more of the signal side and communication. But, you know, you always need tools. I've already shown this off before. So this is a Gerber tool, you know, whether I leave it in the case or take it out of the case, you know. This is going to fit inside of here all day long. So, you know, kind of running over to the shoot side. So again, whether that's personal defense or food procurement, you know, I could have this Gerber tool in here because I might need that for my snares or my trap line or, you know, fixing something on one of my weapon systems, or if my little belt kit clip comes loose on my rangefinder, you know, rangefinder fits in there, that does. I already showed this in the past. These are just training rounds. You know, Spoon's running it with a whole bunch of different magazines in there. You know, so depending on what type of weapon platform you're using, single stack, double stack, subcompact, you know, full frame. But again, you're easily going to get 3 to 5, depending on the platform, of magazines in there. If this is just going to be your spare magazine pouch, right, as part of your shoot, which is also part of communicate. Don't forget that. You know, it's just all about making noise. Remember, you know, 1 shot, wait a couple seconds, 2 shots, wait a couple seconds, 3 shots, then wait a longer period of time, and then lather, rinse, repeat if you have enough ammunition to do it. But so this is a Vortex Ranger Pathfinder. That fits in there with tons of space. I could still get all kinds of other items up there if I was bow hunting. I've already shown this in the last one. So this is just an ASP baton. So if magazines fit in there, so obviously an ASP does. So if this becomes part of your EDC, your personal defense, you know, bag, if you want to call it that, an ASP baton. Here's 2 Glock magazines. Yeah, I've got those in there, and I still have room for a really small blowout kit. Here. So I could throw that in there, and then here's a SWAT T, which is kind of like about the same size as the standard, you know, military compress. Yeah, and I can get that in there. Move that magazine out of the way. And I still have tons of room up on the top. I could, here, I'm going to get this in here, and hopefully you'll see the magazines because I spray painted them orange when they're for training. Look at how much space is still in there, right? That's showing up. Yeah, so you still, or that's more than enough space if that's all you're going to carry in it, right? But so there's a lot of different items in that shoot category that you can put in here as well. I kind of jumped around. So we were food, fire, water, shelter. We've already shown those. We were doing a little bit of, you know, fire and communicate at the same time. So I'm just going to kind of jump into, actually, let me just finish shoot one more time because it's right in front of me. So this is an old, you know, military, you know, weapons cleaning kit with cleaning rods. I already showed that in the last video. I wouldn't put this whole kit in here. That just seems ridiculous. If you already have this kit, well, just leave all the items inside the kit. But what I'm just saying is take the rods out. Talking ain't doing, right? Because maybe you didn't see the last video. All right, so there's all kinds of loose stuff in here, but I'm not going to put it all in here. All of it would fit. So here's the rod, still in their Cosmoline. They come up to the very top of the pouch. You can see that's a little bit of plastic popping over. But I could easily turn this into a really robust, yet small and convenient and transportable range bag, right? With all my weapons cleaning material inside of there, if that's how I wanted to use it. You know, boar snake, cleaning rods, patches, toothbrush, you know, all of your, you know, small, well, again, throw your Gerber tool in there so you've got a small tool to make those small corrections, you know, on your front and rear sight posts, you know, whatever, you do you. All right, that's only half. And where's the time? Yeah, this is already 24 minutes and I've only done half. Holy crap, I don't even feel like I'm rambling. I always feel like I'm talking too fast when I'm doing these things. All right, I'm a little parched. I had to take another sip. All right, well, we'll move through the next things kind of quickly. You already get the point. This pouch will hold a whole bunch of different items, you know, again, across a wide spectrum of whatever your adventure or your needs are. But when the one thing you can't see, you know, and don't take my word for it. I mean, like, I'm just telling you what I think. And, you know, like, I've been wearing the first original prototype and I freaking love it. It just rides so nicely on my hip. I don't even know it. I'm wearing it right now in this chair. So I really like it. Hey, let's just move on though into one of maybe the most important things, which is like the Medicate side. So I'm going to kind of do some Medicate, and then we'll just kind of bounce back over into some of the Communicate and Signal stuff here and wrap it up. But so, you know, a little backstory. I told you some of the origin story in the previous video. A friend of mine, he has a kid, diabetic. I know somebody else who's diabetic. We had the original pouch on the horizontal axis. It worked, but I didn't like how it rode on your body, how it didn't conceal as nicely. This conceals a lot better, actually. You know, maybe the bottom doesn't, depending on what kind of clothing you're wearing. But as far as it printing, it conceals a lot better. And anyway, so working with them, I don't have all the props, but diabetics, right? So if you're a diabetic, we've already kind of done this before, and maybe we'll do this again when Spoon's here next, because he's got a slightly different like portable charging station than I have. Mine's kind of old and large and heavy, and it's still awesome, but he's got a smaller one. So I know there's more robust versions, but he's got that smaller kit. So we took that smaller kit, combined it with these prompts I had, and it was freaking incredible, right? So you've got the testing kit, you know, and then there's pens that go with it. And I apologize to people in that community. I don't know enough about this stuff. I'm getting smart on it as I'm, you know, talking to people. But you know, most people apparently are carrying 2 pens. So this is just a ChemLite. You know, so you already saw in the previous video. But you know, the ability to get your kit in there, pens, swabs, all kinds of stuff. So it becomes like, it's not just a boo-boo kit. This could be your no shit, I never want to be without it kit, right? And if that's the world you live in. So just something to kind of think about there. And that's really how this really started, was turning around and making some diabetic, you know, a pouch that really worked for a couple people I know who have diabetes, and because that ain't no joke, man. It just isn't a joke. So, but if it fits, you know, the diabetic kits, you know, so here is an EpiPen, right? Good luck getting one of those nowadays, but here's an EpiPen, right? Just to give you a sense of proportionality. Sunday. I've had 1 sip of wine and I'm already slurring it. But you get it. You can see, like, it doesn't even come up all the way to the top. And you've got all this other space for whatever your medical needs might be. Maybe you want an EpiPen in there and you want a standard cat tourniquet in there. So again, you see what I'm doing. I'm just throwing stuff in there. There's tons of room still in there. I could get the cat and the SWAT T in there. But let's say you wanted to use, and now you just wanted to carry your daily meds, right? So this is like these are one of those little med pouch, little pill dispenser things. They're a little bit thinner than a sharpening puck, but you know, for what I just threw in here right now, let's just kind of put that to the test. Yeah, so that would fit easily. I didn't even shove it all the way down in there, and but that would be one way of looking at it. If you were looking at it for more of a blowout kit, let's just say. So here I got a couple examples of that. This is no shit, like just a little homemade GSW kit. I made this. This guy's probably been with me for a long time. I've had this guy for some pretty, thank God I never had to use it on myself or anybody else. But just a little homemade first aid kit, whatever you want to put in there, right? If it's a GSW kit or whatever. I can get that in there, and I still got tons of room for all kinds of other, you know, additions to go in there. Here's maybe a better example. Most of you are probably familiar with cinch tights. So here's a cinch tight. Let's say you're going to turn this into, you know, again, some type of, you know, blowout kit, boo-boo kit. So here's a cinch tight going in there. And again, I have all kinds of room for trauma shears, you know, gloves, you know, gauze, all kinds of stuff. So if you wanted to turn it into a little first aid kit, that would be another way that you could potentially use it. Here's like a little survival kit I made a long time ago. So this has just got like water purification, matches, some fat rope, a thermometer, P38, a little lighter, water pure tabs, I may have said that, and a water pure catch basin thing. So just again, a little homemade survival kit. Yeah, and if that's what it was, You know, again, that's not packed super great or anything like that, but that fits all day long. You see where I'm going with this. Come up with your own stuff. I mean, there's a whole bunch of, if you choose to use this down the medical side of it, you can get a lot of gear in this guy. You can make a pretty robust personal first aid kit, you know, if you want to call it an IFAK. You can't get as much as what we can get inside of the medical deployment pouches that we make for Black Scout, but you can still get a lot of stuff in here, right? So your call. Shoot, move, communicate, medicate. So on the move side, you know, a lot of that's up to you, but let's just say you're talking the electronics, and this will give you a perspective. You know, get some adventure paper, print out your maps on adventure paper, fold it up inside of here, get your, you know, 1/50,000, whatever type of map you're using, fold that up in here. Here's just some other examples to show you when you're talking about the moving side. So a Garmin GPS, this is the 60 CSX. This is an old one, you know, from way back in the day when I was still doing stuff, but it's still really good. Now, you'll see there's a bunch of cordage on here because I would really dummy cord it, but there's a GPS inside of here, and here's a military lensatic compass. That guy can fit inside of here. Again, I would dummy cord it off. So I've got a large GPS, a compass, and if I really wanted to, I could even put my little Garmin Mini inside of here, tuck that guy in here, and then this could be maybe all of my navigational aids right inside of here, you know. You know what I should have done? I don't think it'll fit though, honestly, but I should have had a protractor out, and I don't have one out, so I apologize. But I don't think a protractor will fit, and you'll see why. I'm about to say that in a second. Let me just get this stuff out of my way. But, you know, we're talking, that's the moving side of things, so maps. So here, I guess, notebooks, that would be part of moving as well. That's a good little example. So, you know, anything from, you know, again, there's a bunch of companies. This is one from Black Scout Survival, the small little notebooks. Here's a Right in the Rain small notebook. And then here's a Moleskin. That's kind of reflecting a little bit weird, but here's a small Moleskin notebook. Any one of these sizes will fit in here easily and still give you tons of room for maps, you know, space pens, grease pencils, whatever your needs are, right? So it could be a good like little admin pouch for that kind of stuff when it comes to moving or communicating or just taking notes in the field, right? Like, you know, hey, today this was a great hike. Here's what I saw. But just to give you some points of reference. So the larger Right in the Rain field book, the military green book, right? If you're in the military, you know what I'm talking about with these green books. But you guys, I'm sure, know the larger Right in the Rains. And unfortunately, 2176 Ranger Handbook, those guys don't fit inside of here. You can fit the Ranger Handbook size type of book in here, but it's got to bend just a little bit. But the larger Right in the Rain, it's a little bit too wide. It just won't fit. So, you know, sorry, you know, I like the size. I'm not going to make it larger. And by the way, if you're carrying these type of things around and that's why I said the protractor, because protractors are a little bit wider than this size book, a little bit smaller than this size book. And if these guys don't fit, then a protractor won't fit in there either. But that's why you have your field and garrison bag. That's for all the old-time military personnel, if you know what I'm talking about, the field and garrison bag. Moving on. I already did this once. Yeah, I already showed you once. So on the communication side, maybe your communication is being a little bit more concerned about protecting your communication, and you want one of these little RFID, pseudo Faraday, whatever you want to call it, type of bags. I already showed before, you know, a cell phone fits in there, it fits in here, you can fit it inside of the bag if that's how you want to carry it. I mentioned those little, not the storage units, but like, you know, kind of the home portable battery type units. Now, this is my old one. I just mentioned Spoon. Last time he was down here, you know, hey, mine's bigger, right? I don't know if that's good in this case, but he's got a really small, these things have really come a long ways. But I think it's better just to show mine, this thing is freaking, you know, this thing will probably could drop from 20 feet. Actually, I don't know what it's rated, but it's a really good power bank, and it's really ruggedized, and it's got a lot of functionality to it. And I just kind of wanted to really have that out just to show this. Like, so for my communications, that could be as well. Maybe I need to have that power bank in here so I can keep my computer, my Garmin, my GPS, my phone, you know, whatever the case is, you know, that's in there, and there's still a lot of room for other types of devices in there. And then just on that note, so I kind of just was, as I pulled that guy out, he's normally in my old G2, but you know, other things I carry in the G2. So this is like a portable hard drive. Just back and forth between different computers, so I got to keep things up to date. So he fits in there, no problem at all. Matter of fact, and then this is what I just keep. I don't know if anyone even uses thumb drives anymore, but thumb drives and cables, I keep in this little pouch right here. And so there, you know, where did I get this? I don't even know. Where is it made? Definitely not by me. But you know what? The guy just sits in a bag, inside of a bag. He doesn't really get abused that much. You can tell it's fraying apart and coming apart. But hey, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, right? But those two guys right there, I can get both of them in there. Not as easy as I was thinking or I did earlier. But yeah, you see what I'm getting at. You can fit, and that actually, matter of fact, I'm going to stop it right there. That'll give you a good example. That is a lot of material, and I can fit that inside there. So if I was going to keep all of my personal communication devices or devices related with my personal communication, you know, it will fit inside of here, and it'll be nice and snug depending on how much you're putting into it, right? You figure that out. And then we're taking it out on something I just figured out on that note, which I thought was really interesting. I didn't think it would work, and it did. Give me 1 second here. So when we're talking about that, you know, your ability to communicate, emergency signals, part of that ability to communicate, just as is that power bank, your cell phone, you know, and a whole bunch of different other tools. But just on the personal communication side, you know, see the last video, you know, obviously I told you, you know, like this is a really robust personal defense style flashlight from Black Scout Survival. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that bezel. It's a very robust personal defense bezel. So if that's part of your shoot or if that's part of your communicate, because could be both. I mean, right, that's why you've got some tools that score higher than other tools. This is both communication, it's both illumination, which I might need for every other thing I'm doing. So this scores pretty highly. Of all the stuff I've just shown you, if I could only pick a handful of them, well, this guy's gonna be up there pretty high. But I'll save that. See, I started a ramble. I digress. Let me finish off on the thing that I wanted to show you. So as I was messing around getting all these props out, so again, speaking of communication, so here's a signal flare, right? So signal flare, and then here's a pack of the actual flares. Now, you could take them out and then they would fit a little differently. It's just this is a 3-pack. Well, actually, I think it comes in 4 or 5. I clearly already shot one out of this guy. But this flare gun, and you can find this, who makes this again? Orion. Yeah, I should have known that. Orion. They make a lot of like signal devices. But so this is an Orion signal flare gun. And now what you're about to see, it isn't perfect, but I'm just showing you how this stuff can work and make it work for you and for the devices you have and the tools that you have at your disposal. So I just broke the breech, and that way you also know it's safe, and that's another reason to do it. But with the breech broken, and I think he's right about there. Yeah, he's all the way in. Now, I would probably take the actual flares out and just put them, because I've got a gap down the side on one side, so I could easily put these guys in here. But I just wanted to show this off because that's kind of maxing it out right there. But so it just gives you another example of, look, that's a large flare gun. Breech, you know, broken, breech is open, tucked inside of there, and I could easily have flares in here. So what if this was something I just always had in my vehicle or on my boat or in my rucksack, and you know, there it is. But now it's there, it's protected, you know where it is, everything's there at one point. Or maybe you're in an environment or a situation where this is the one thing that you better have with you at all times. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of the whole point. Oh, and then just another little example. This is another, I don't even know who makes this, but this is a little like pull flare. It's not a slap flare, it's a pull flare. But if emergency signal or communication. So these guys, and that should show up, comes up just inside the top. Right, so that gives you a good sense of how much gear, the size of gear, you know, how you could use it. It's just super robust. I'm totally in love with mine. It's like, you know, that's weird, I know. Like, oh, Mark, you did such a good job. Yay! Do I get a bonus? Or, you know, I don't know. Hey, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different jokes I could make about that. But hey, anyway, it's been a long video. It's Sunday night. I'm kind of wrapping up the day here, or starting the week, depending on how you want to look at it. Trying to have a little bit of fun. We just finished these guys yesterday. Again, I'm just looking at how much crap is on the table in front of me, and I'm laughing my ass off. It's a really versatile pouch. And on that note, a little bit of kind of housekeeping. So the Popo video will probably go live Tuesday or Wednesday. why am I even saying it? That video will be out before you see this video. I'm going to probably release this video later this week, you know, after like two or 3 days after the Popo video, the Popo pouches video gets released. So this video probably won't come out until Thursday or Friday of this week. But hey, when you see it, just remember I'm sitting here in the past saying to you, if you ever have questions or comments, reach out anytime. I'll do the best I can to help you out. I hope you found this video somewhat informative, educational anyway. You know, like, wow, you can put a lot of stuff in there, or I never thought about having one of those. You know, hopefully it helps you out in that sense, or it gets your creative juices going and you've come up with a whole nother way to use this that I didn't even think of. And that is what's awesome about gear and good gear and getting out there and messing with it. So, you know, reach out anytime. You know, until then, you know the deal. Keep thinking, keep moving, never quit. All right, everybody, be good. Woo!